Oh, emulation on the Steam Deck is awesome. Let me show you some devices that kind of spurred the idea of turning my Steam Deck into many other consoles. All of these different consoles were different handhelds and devices that I spent absolute hours on. Playing games, playing really 8-bit games under the bed covers so I wouldn't have to go to bed, on the TV instead of doing schoolwork, and just absolutely enjoying these different stories and games that people have created that have shaped the way I look at different media and works of art today. Let's dive into this emulation beast. So, to give you an idea of why I think emulation is important is because, one, the hardware just straight up doesn't survive that long. Especially when you're putting maybe 500 hours on your favorite Monster Hunter game on PS2. Oh yeah, it was just Monster Hunter. Maybe you really like the Game Boy Advance because that's the console you played all of your games on, because the only time you had time to play games was on the bus. Because, I don't know, maybe you were really big into soccer. Everything is going to mean something different to everybody else. Your games are going to be different, your consoles are going to be different, but the revolving theme is that the hardware just generally doesn't hold up to the test of time. Technology just wasn't that good at it at the beginning. A lot of stuff nowadays is a lot more rugged and able to be put a few hundred, maybe even 1,000 hours on a device, other than the GameCube. For some reason, that's still just kick it. Don't bother it, it's still working. But it doesn't mean that I don't want to be able to fire something up while maybe I'm sitting on the beach. Because if I brought the GameCube to the beach, it would certainly light on fire, and we don't want that. Emulation also has a dark side to it, that piracy is running rampant in the community of it because, well, it's easy. However you get your ROMs and your ROM BIOS is up to you. As for running everything on the Steam Deck, this is not going to be a setup video. This is going to be a use case video. Why the Steam Deck is the perfect, just the best option for emulating these old games. If you're trying to learn how to set up EmuDeck, which is what we're going to be using for all of this, link in the video description below. Retro Core Games does a fantastic job of setting everything up. Each one of the old consoles that isn't working anymore absolutely can be played on the Steam Deck through EmuDeck. Let's now get into the Steam Deck itself and kind of see what it's like. Now, playing these games that have been upported to the Steam Deck definitely have little caveats for each one of the consoles. So anything that was handheld just basically runs right out of the box. And you're not really going to have to do anything special to have a good experience on the Steam Deck. And so if you're looking to just use your Steam Deck as a Game Boy, it can absolutely do that. Moving up to more 3D intensive consoles though, the PlayStation 1 through 3 all work very well on the Steam Deck. There are a few things, just like every other emulation port. The controls are all going to be a little wonky. So if you're willing to fiddle with each one of these different emulators, then you're not going to have any problems. If you're going to want it to work right out of the gate, you're going to need some fiddling. You're not going to be able to get it to work right out of the gate.
God, this horse has always been wonky.
Fiddling. So, the different systems that I wanted to have on my Steam Deck are the PS2, PS3, GameCube, Wii, Wii U, Switch, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, Nintendo DS, 3DS. They all, with a little bit of finagling, were able to work. All of my old games that I own and have upported all plopped right onto the SD card and sit right in my Steam library. Having the built-in controls that just sync up with the console is awesome. With EmuDeck being able to recognize the Steam interface, it really does help out with a little bit of those kind of wonkiness, because you're able to use the Steam overlay to actually kind of configure buttons if you need to on the fly, versus having a second set of software running like a PlayStation controller or something else if you were doing emulation on a computer or a laptop. So we've been over the old hardware, the library, but what about the new hardware? How does the Steam Deck work? How does it do with emulating different things? Because it's essentially running an OS within another OS that's playing a game. This is, like I said, kind of hit or miss with both games. I think the Steam Deck does very well. It would do basically how a regular laptop would do, but the built-in controls and Steam overlay is really what kind of just blows this experience out of the water. Being able to play Gameboy games on a handheld screen that you're moving in front of you is great. And because of the size of the screen, a lot of the emulations, instead of being kind of blown up to whatever size your monitor or TV would be, is just in your hands on a smaller screen. So it actually puts the pixels closer together and a little bit farther away from your eyeballs. And it feels a little more natural, especially when you're emulating something like the Game Boy Advance. It feels and kind of brings you back to the idea of, you're like, oh yeah, this is what playing this game used to feel like. Because, that old football don't work no more.
It's funny, playing this on a larger screen, I almost actually have like a better vision of the game.
The Steam Deck's hardware, processor, GPU, all that good stuff, works pretty much how you'd expect a laptop to work, where the Steam Deck does pretty well up to about the PS3 era of things. So games without being able to tweak each one of the parameters of the emulation, one of them are going to need some work. I was able to play Heavenly Sword, which I haven't played in forever because maybe the dog ate the disc, maybe the dog didn't eat the disc. Either way, that game was a little laggy, but it did run. So doing tweaks on things and being able to kind of pull the settings in different directions and using the helpful wiki pages that Retro Game Core recommended is just so helpful. And then you're able to get the games running how you kind of need to, how it would feel on native hardware. All of this ends up in a very good experience for something that's in your hands on the go. And the wattage it pulls is a little bit lower too. So specifically for the older handheld consoles, it's great because you can play it for hours and hours and it's only pulling a few watts. So you're able to just, I don't know, if you're on a really, really long plane ride and you want to run through one of the original Pokemon games, you'll be able to do that. Or pack a bunch of AA's and find yourself one. Good luck. Speaking of hardware and the screens, I kind of wanted to do a comparison because I thought it'd be interesting. I still have the Switch, and the Steam Deck plays Switch games relatively well. The screen on the Switch and the screen on the Steam Deck, I wonder what the comparison there is. If you'd like to see a more in-depth video about that, I thought that'd be an interesting topic to kind of see between the Switch, the Steam Deck, and maybe an original console, how that all looks. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below if that's something you'd like to see. So, why is emulation on the Steam Deck such a big topic? Well, I think with all of the portability, the size and form factor of the device, and just how well it runs, in addition to how much it runs, is why people are really talking about this. Emulation on the computer is cool, but being able to have a native controller built into it that's how it works, really does kind of change things up. It's like if Nintendo was like, hey, our entire library of games we've ever put out is on the Switch. People would go bananas, but that's not how it works. So Valve, the Steam overlay, EmuDeck, and I'm going to shout out Retro Game Corps again because their videos really helped me out putting all of this together, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without them. I don't know them, but their videos helped me out a lot. So if you have a Steam Deck and you have a bunch of old games, maybe port them up, and they'll live with you forever in your digital garbage. Oh hey, I did also forget to mention, it's Halloween, so happy Halloween, and if I didn't upload this on Halloween, well, that's tough candy corns there, kids. But if it is Halloween, 2 games that run absolutely fantastic on the Steam Deck are Resident Evil 0, 1, 2, 3. They're all on sale right now if it's Halloween, the 31st. They're on sale on Steam, go check them out. And if you want another scary game that's also on sale right now, Dead Space, that whole trilogy is on sale on Steam right now as well. And they're remaking the first one too, soon, which will be really cool. So if you're in a spooky mood and you want some spooky games to play on your spooky device, check those ones out. They all run great on the Steam Deck. And back to our planned programming. Boo. I don't know what that is. The Steam Deck really does emulate a bunch of good stuff. I do have another video comparing what the Steam Deck can do to other handhelds. So if you haven't seen that one yet, go take a watch for that one. I have that comparison video up as my last video, so go take a look at that one next.